The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
As promised, more recaps. But I'm pretty much caught up after we get through this one. But we got some history and some, competition action to cover here. So, Jeff Peterson, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep. And, man, normally, like I said, I cover competitions. We get into, who lifted what happened. But I want to get into your grip history and kind of your introduction to grip, via Strongman or kind of what that was like back then. Because you've really been involved in the sport probably as long as anybody we've had on the show, maybe minus one or two people, but I've had probably 100 people on the show to some extent. And but you've been around, the sport and involved for over 2 decades, I would say. Probably safe to say over 2 decades. So there's some stuff I want to cover.
Nice sweet hiatus right in the middle, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. So just kind of, I guess, give us an intro on you. Obviously you're in the Minnesota area now. I don't know if that's always been the case, but just give us the rundown of what it was like in those earlier days of grip, or maybe how Strongman led to grip, whatever that looks like. Just kind of break that down for us.
Yeah, man, no problem. Yeah, I remember being in high school, super interested in the weight room. Everything about that was cool. Then you're graduating high school, going to college, played football, ran track. But I remember thinking, I need something to keep pursuing here. And I was reading an old magazine. Well, I say old because I don't know how people read magazines now, but Powerlifting USA, there was an ad for a strongman contest. And Jeff Bissonette, a name that maybe some people recognize, he's saying, come do X, Y, and Z, and can you do this? And I'm just like, all of this sounds cool. I had seen Strongman a little bit on TV, had no idea that things like this happened in my backyard. St. Paul, born and raised, Stillwater's not far. And it was wild because when I first went there, I'm this kind of, I had a little muscle, but more wiry, probably still at that. I'm wiry now too. And I walk in there to the training day, nervous as could be, butterflies and everything. And the first thing I see is this massive guy laying on a bench, with a massive needle in his knee. And I'm like, I walked into the wrong place. Where the hell am I? Turns out everybody there was nice. They were just taking some fluid out from some old injury. But Jeff Bissonette, some of the guys were nice enough to show me the equipment. But while there, there were grippers on the wall. I'm like, what are these weird things? And those guys were just mashing the one, and everything I could do, I got the trainer, didn't quite get the one that day. Hooked on Strongman. I can get hooked on things easily. Weightlifting was always one of them. Then it became Strongman. Well, you start hanging out with these strong guys long enough and you realize hey, I want to put on Strongman contest. I want to get grip implements, farmer's walk. But there was a point where someone in our training crew kind of liked Strongman, but more liked grip. Brian Carlton, maybe a name people know, he started putting on grip contests. So between getting into that as a way to maybe improve some of my events in Strongman, Strongman's wild. Some of those guys, an example, we'd go to a training day, and some of these guys, they hadn't trained grip per se, but double overhand deads, heavy deadlifts, tire flipping, all these things are using the hand in so many different angles. I remember one of the early training days, we'd show up and, there were guys deadlifting the inch dumbbell, or you had a Joel Sword, Olympic thrower, awesome, nice guy, only moved at one speed. He could move all the weight in the world as long as it wasn't explosive, at least the time I knew him. He was past the Olympic lifting. He just picked up some inch farmers, or he picked up some farmers, just walked them. Jeff Bissonette was able to do the same thing. He was able to pick up the inches and farmers walk them that same day. But when you see people all buying into the same niche, and in this case, it's Strongman, it's grip, it just always wanted me to keep going and keep trying to improve. And I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but
no, you're good, man.
From getting into it in high school, mostly for football, but I was the only person on the football team I feel who really cared about lifting. And then getting into Strongman, where that's all people cared about, you get into a community and it just blossoms. You find out how good you can really get. You can really push each other. And I guess that's kind of the earliest memory I have of grip related things. Eventually, when you start playing with grippers, it can become other things. And then you start searching around. I found the grip board. Bill Pichet was someone who was on the grip board. He was really nice. I'm glad Matt Cannon picked it up and runs it now. But through the grip board, I found out, oh, there's more than just grippers. There's more than just inches.
Yeah,
And
Jeff,
somewhere
just real quick for kind of talking about those early days.
uh-huh.
Around what year is that? Just for people listening in or watching.
Yeah.
What time frame are we talking? Like
Makes sense.
03 or I'm kind of just guessing, but yeah.
First strongman contest, summer of 2001.
Okay.
Then late 2003 is when I started getting hardcore into grip, and when I started finding the grip board, which eventually led me to seeing that there's other grippers out there. So I'm looking up, I hear the name, somebody named Warren Tetting. I go, that's interesting. Who's this guy? St. Paul, Minnesota, you say? That's not so far. I lived all of 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. And I remember using a phone book, seeing that name because as it should have been, his contact wasn't on the grip board, and just thumbing through there, finding a Warren Tetting that was on East 7th. And then, that's how I met Warren.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year did you meet him? Probably about the same time, I guess,
Man, it would have had to have been that. It would have had to have been that 03.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
that's
cool.
Or maybe, yeah, probably 03, 02. Because when I first started meeting Warren, he found out I was in college. Super excited about weightlifting, all these things. We actually struck up a deal. He would build equipment. I would load it in my car, and I would bring it to strongman contests here in the Midwest, whether it was Big Tony's over in Appleton, Wisconsin, whether it was any of the ones in Minnesota, or I'd bring it to my college campus, to the weight room. And I would try to show people, like, here's what a gripper is. Here's how you set it. We also had some of those, you pinch it like this, Ironman version.
Yeah.
Like the Titans Telegraph was
yeah.
Iron Minds. Warren had his equipment. So that was kind of the relationship I had with Warren early on was, he's teaching me all about how to make these things, what makes it maybe better than some other people's equipment, or at least different.
Yeah.
I found out having different options was a great way to supplement your training.
Yeah.
And I would just go around, sell it. At the end of the week, I'd go back. I said, hey, we moved some advanced, we moved some super advanced. He's like, well, here's your coin then. He always liked using the term coin. It was pretty cool. He's a good guy. But that was the early onset of my relationship, kind of getting hardcore into grip, thanks grip board, and then meeting Warren, getting access to different grip tools I probably otherwise wouldn't have had, because I know Iron Mind, which is awesome, some of those implements were more expensive. Then you have to pay for shipping. Well, what's worse than that? You have to wait for the toy you want. I got to wait 2 weeks. I'm ready to blast my thumbs now, man. And there's a guy in St. Paul who probably invented most of these ideas, who will sell it to me on the spot at a discount because I'm like some affiliate selling his equipment. Yeah, it was awesome.
No, man, that's awesome, because it's and we kind of briefly talked about before getting the recording going, but yeah, just what are the chances sometimes, that you just happen to be in that spot or in that place? You could have lived anywhere else. You could have lived, and not even known about that stuff, but it's almost like just sort of meant to be. Some of these things are just the way it's almost coming together or falls together. And I think everybody almost has that moment of how they found the sport or how they got into it, but it is almost I don't say by chance. Because you're already involved in strength, or there's something that usually ties it together. But yeah, I just feel like, yeah, I kind of feel that way with me, kind of being in certain areas that I've been in. I've been fortunate enough to meet people, and that's kind of how I didn't do strongman, but I wanted to get into grip, and then next thing you know, you find out about people in your area, these sites, the YouTube. Back then there was no YouTube going on, so like you mentioned, it might be magazines or articles or flyers or something different, or
flyers. It's funny you mentioned that, because at some of the early shows, you would show up, and then after trophies and everybody's saying, hey, nice to meet you, here's my name, maybe you change numbers with them, they'd pass out the flyers. And don't forget that 6 weeks from now in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, Raspberry Festival. And at Raspberry Festival, we want to have these. That's how it spread, face to face. It was awesome. And when you see the promoter who just competed, who's pumped up, because there's a feeling, competitors know when you finish, all the adrenaline's finally out of the system. There's this dump, and you're just so excited about everything. Everything seems awesome. And you see the promoter telling you, I want you there. This is going to be fun. You just start working on the training journal in your head on the drive home, man. It's contagious like that. Maybe some of that's been lost learning so much online, maybe not. But man, that's just how I remember.
Well, that's something else I would mention, man, is we're talking about kind of how it was done back then, but that the same fundamentals still prove true today. I don't care how much, social media has all this reach, people kind of forget that. I think they overlook that when they're doing competitions. They forget about their like immediate network or the people there face to face, and it's not capitalized on as much as it could be in our sport, in my opinion. So people like to say, "Oh, well, I made a post about it. I tagged people." But they don't talk, but they don't really, they're not on the ground like really doing it, or meeting people or like you know, you have ties to like, we're gonna get covering the Get a Grip competition that you just held. What was that? August 16th? Am I?
Yep.
Yep. Just double check.
Feels
Yep.
like a year ago.
Yeah, no, it does. But yeah, so just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, there's a culture, a gym. There's people, and you have all these connections that were kind of, you've already mentioned a few of them, but yeah, I mean, the same way that that stuff took off back then, that still works now. Just because there's more tools that become available, it doesn't mean the old stuff doesn't work. Go
Right.
talk to somebody face to face, be at an expo or be somewhere, where lifters are going to be and put the stuff in front of them. So we've had some discussions like that on the show, but I'm sure it won't be the last time. But that's just my take is the phones and the internet and all these apps and everything else that we use. There's a lot of good to it, but also it kind of removes some of that, hey, sometimes you just got to drive and be there.
Yeah, man.
You get an idea of what it was like, but it never replaces the real life experience or the face-to-face interaction. So I would just encourage people to use all methods if you're looking to promote or if you're looking to kind of build something and kind of keep it consistent. So yeah, no, that's something that you're familiar with and something that I think you've done pretty well, kind of bringing this Get a Grip competition back to Minnesota. I say back, the old competitions probably weren't called that, but I'm saying just
Oh,
bringing grip back to that area or kind of breathing some life back into the grip scene.
we're trying, man. One squeeze at a time, one pinch at a time.
So I guess from that era, I mean, you mentioned Warren, you're talking about Jeff Bissonette, talking about those guys, Farmer, well, not Warren, Farmers Walking the Inch Bells, but Joel and Jeff and just that scene. And you mentioned, I think Dave Osland,
Yeah.
I believe you mentioned him. If not, then it was before we recorded. But we were just talking about these, strong men and everything. One thing I would like to have you just mention before we get further into the stuff is just a little bit of your competitive achievements. So you mentioned kind of being around those strong people, but
Sure.
just some of the stuff that you did yourself or the things that you were doing at that time. So you're getting an interest into grip, but you're also pushing, like you mentioned, you're all in on this strongman stuff as well as a competitor, though yourself.
I was probably as all in as you can be. Again, pros and cons of that. Um, Sacrifice some things, miss some things I probably shouldn't, but it went well. Like 2003, I was the NAS, was the North American Strongman Society lightweight of the year, and then '04 heavyweight of the year, and then year after that, I got my lightweight pro card, and the year after that, Wisconsin, I won my heavyweight pro card, and then I started getting invited to the invite only shows in Canada where they pay you to show up, provide lodging, provide meals. During that time, and let's be clear, yes, I closed the three. I'm certified on that. But back then, you didn't have to close with a credit card. So is it a feat I did? Sure, I closed the three. I closed a lot of them. The guys today that can put it in there and swipe it through, I have so much respect for. It's nuts. I bent the red nail. Was it down to inch off or a half inch off? I've got that certificate somewhere. So I fit those in along the way, but strongman, that was the thing. I was obsessed or addicted enough where actually I submitted some videos, some footage, and some pictures. There was the show that, man, some people won't even remember. It was on the Learning Channel, My Strange Addiction. I
We're gonna have people
remember.
Googling it after this. We're gonna see.
Oh, cool, neat. I will say they shot a lot of stuff for that. I ended up getting on the show, and they cherry pick a little bit.
Well, I was gonna say I mean, there's probably so much more that was going on that
They're like,
you
hey,
can't control the editing.
that's interesting. You said it like that. Could you say it like this? What if you said it more like this? I bet it would sound great like this. But I remember Minnesota, there was a guy, Jason Adamski, who would later go on to build inch dumbbells that I think some people bought their inches from him. He had a car, he hollowed out, took it out, and we could use it like a car yoke. You'd open the front door, you'd get in, you'd strap it on the shoulders, and you'd run back and forth. So I sent a picture of that, some information. They're like, man, addicted to lifting stuff and addicted to lifting stuff like this, that's wild, man. So I was all in. After that show, it was leading into nationals. I would end up tearing the Achilles fully, needing surgery. Misdiagnosed it. They said, oh, there's no tear here. We're not doing MRIs.
Yeah, you just rolled your ankle a little bit.
Yeah, that's not dissimilar to what the doctor said, who shall remain nameless, as the facility he worked at. Later, when I couldn't walk, I mean, I'm still going to spin class and trying these things. Like, the doc cleared me. Here we go.
Yeah, man, that's rough.
But when we went back, they did the MRI hits torn. In surgery, they discovered I had torn it in training 6 months before in a different spot. So it kind of ended a lot of the strongman. I would try to compete after that, but man, there was nothing there. It wasn't the same.
I got you. Yeah.
But I met so many cool people. There's nothing better than the road trip with your buddies, the window time, being like, man, I'm so worried about this event. The training didn't go well. But then on the way home, like, oh, I guess that was pretty good. Can't wait to get home. And you'd have to hook up your VCR. You put like the small cassette tape from your video camera in that to slam it in there to watch it.
I'm like, I'm younger than some of the people I have on the show, but I'm still from the era where I remember cassettes or camcorders going into tapes and stuff. So, but yeah, some of the newer lifters, I mean, we get like somebody's like 23 or something, and they didn't really grow up with some of that stuff. So I think I kind of caught the tail end of that kind of as a younger kid. So
it's a good place to be.
Yeah, not too bad, but yeah, so I can relate to what you're saying. Just, I mean, hell, I even thought it was wild when, like, the first time someone brought YouTube up on the TV. I was like, oh my God, like those lifting videos that when I was like in high school or something lifting, I'm like, oh God, like that video on Facebook, we can put it on the TV now. Like, what's that about?
YouTube was nuts. There was a small amount of time I really felt like YouTube was a company that came out and filmed and shot stuff. I just didn't know what YouTube was the first couple of weeks. It's people shooting it. It's not a company that comes out. You shoot and upload it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's just, I don't know. It's good to kind of go back and remember some of that stuff. I think often we get it's always been this way, or people talk about building the sport of grip. Like, we'll do this, this, and this, and or how come these people didn't do that? It's like, well, the sport's pretty young, and there's a lot of changes that have happened in the last 20, 30 years that almost make a new sport. There's so much to it. So we can always, that'll be subjects I'm sure that continuously get brought up on the show.
Correct. It was interesting too, because back in the day, so one of my best friend training partners, we met at a strongman contest, Dave Oslin. When we first started hanging out, he had grippers, I had grippers. Now, Matt Cannon exists where, Cannon Power Works, you can get them rated. And I just remember saying, dude, I can barely close this two. I've got this two that's like, twos are, I didn't know there were different strengths, but twos are tough. Twos are super easy, but I can't even budge my three. We would later put them side by side, try them, and we're like, these are not the same. I wanted to write like a letter to the company, like, hey, mine's broken because my number two is super hard. But then the three I had, ended up being rated 139. So certified on that. But then, his it's not rated, but it's more of a brick compared to that. So, but when you wanted to, this is adjacent related, when you wanted to make certain feats, then it was going from whatever two you had to whatever number three you had, 2.5. Enter Warren, and I found out there were other things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and with some of those, I mean, you can run into some wild variations, or a 2 to a 3 is already a pretty big jump. Let it be like I don't know, let it be a low 2 to a high 3, or
I thought it was a hard jump, and my 2 turned out to be a 113 going to 139. Pretty dang hard 2 to a easy 3. Man, what did you guys have to deal with? Ugh.
Yeah, that's, and when people, because I'm trying to remember when people kind of started doing the whole rating the gripper at close. That idea had been, and I don't know who to fully credit. I know Jed will. The names are slipping my mind right now.
Sure.
Dave Morton is one of the people.
Oh man, Dave Morton.
Dave Morton, and I think Greg Amadon. Does that sound familiar? I'm going off memory, but
Greg not so much. Doesn't mean he Doesn't mean he
Okay.
wasn't a thing,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah, Dave Morton was the real deal.
I think there was something that I think that was they were some of the first people to really bring like the rating the gripper type thing. It wasn't really called rating gripper at close back then, but from and that's just Jed's account. So I don't know. Maybe Warren had something that he was. Yeah, I don't know, but we just know the grippers were. There's a lot of variation. So yeah, but back then it wasn't like, well, oh, let me log in and look at the 10,000 ratings that Canon has up so I can see what the average.
Uh-huh.
No, you're like, you got a buddy down the road. You're like, hey, dude, like, I can't close this number two. Like, what's up? And maybe you grab his. And you're like, okay, well, that's easier. What's going on?
That's exact. I
Yeah,
would two
that's
people I'd
funny.
send grippers to. I'd send them to Jed. Jed bought a 3 for me that both the edges were filed. I couldn't do anything with it. I don't know if he ever ended up closing it, but then like Wade Gillingham, eventually I'd get decent at. I could close most elites I tried, which I now understand was deep setting. So let's be clear. But he would send me the old chromed out ones that were super wide and funky and just hard. And I'd be like, dude, yeah, no, I maybe closed it. I can't tell. I always had this weird thing. If I could support it, support my wrist, go like this, I could get like another maybe 5 or 6 RGC out of it. But that's what you had to do. You just said, hey, I have one. You have something similar. Do you want to just like trade them? We'll just send them at the same time.
Yeah.
Play with that person's gripper for a week or two, send it back. You either feel like a champ if you could close it, or if you found it was harder than the level you were already struggling with. Just want to like pound sand. It's tough.
Yeah. No, I just like hearing that era or that that stuff was going on because it's still happening to some extent. I mean, people are still shipping grippers. Hey,
Sure.
you can train on this. It's still happening. It's just back then that was like the only way you could almost get that information.
Yeah.
In your brain, you had to like know somebody or trade or do that. Whereas now you could go online if you don't want to trade with somebody, but people are still helping each other out. Like, hey, I need this
Yeah,
number
man.
or something, this RGC with a narrow spread, and they get crazy with grippers. So I'm not even going to go into all the possibilities of why people trade grippers, but yeah, there's millions of reasons probably
Well, it got
going on.
interesting too because on the grip board, I'd start posting some stuff, and people were finding out the same time I was, right? Not special at all, not just St. Paul. That hey, these things aren't always the same strength. So certain guys who have now reconnected with would be like, man, do you think you could help find me like a super master? And then Warren would say, hey, I can either slide them further. I'd watch him bend it. He could bend it so the spring, regardless of the mounting, would be pretty narrow. And I was able to help people find the exact things. Nothing's exact. Pretty close to the exact thing they wanted. We just ship them out to them. It was awesome.
No, and that's just a unique place to be in, or just to experience that. And yeah, so really starting with the weightlifting to the strongman, and then you're finding out about grip. You're knocking out some stuff. I don't want to like say like as like a side mission or something, but yeah, you're kind of chipping away at
Side
some of these
mission
other
is the right
things.
word.
And because that was your main goal, then maybe along the way, injuries kind of bring some of the super competitive strongman stuff to a stop, but you're still, you know, into lifting weights or strength, or that's just because somebody's injured or just because they're not actively competing in this show or XYZ, it like almost doesn't leave you.
No,
The
it
competitive
doesn't.
nature, the whatever you're turning your interest to. So with facing those injuries, was grip something that you kind of shifted to a little bit more because you weren't gonna like, I don't know, not saying that someone couldn't blow their Achilles out doing grip, it would be possible, but less likely than 1,000 pound yoke or something or some frame carry,
Uh-huh.
you know. Yeah, did you kind of get into grip a little bit more through that as time went on, or
Nope.
nope, just kind of
Nope. I remember being very frustrated that I couldn't go back. I could squat still pretty well. I could do some deadlifting, but then there ended up being some back problems. So after national strongman nationals, that's where I tore the Achilles. Is in first place in this 2-day event in the lightweights, not first in the heavyweights. Blew out the Achilles on the frame carry. I tried to do a couple of shows after that. It was fun. Just probably more cute than anything. Hey, look at me! I'm trying to do this, but it didn't go very well. I kind of focused on building some smaller businesses that I had. Still was in the gym, focused on cardio, eating clean. Just stepped back for whatever reason. Probably should have picked up and just hung onto those grippers. Just kept doing closes. Probably should have worked the thumb pad. Man, you see some of these guys at the at the strongman contest, or you see the Gillingham brothers, their thumb pads are like, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. And we
Yeah.
joke about that now that me and my brothers, because all three of us were doing this at the same time. Some stories there. We all joke like, what if we would have stuck with it? But we didn't. We didn't want it bad enough, I guess, or we found other things for a while. And this year, when it's September, when the calendar hits September 1st this year, I'll have been back in it for a year. I was
Okay. So what time did you officially step away, would you say? Around that injury, like 04, 05, or what was that?
Oh no, it was well after that.
Okay, so that was just when you first kind of found it, but then you were competing for years. Okay. What time did you
So
kind of step away?
around 2010 was when I
Okay.
got my first big injury in strongman. I'd already set some of the grip stuff aside. The thought being, not that you probably couldn't do two things at once. I'll just focus on strongman.
Yeah.
Just want to get as good as I could, as strong as I could. I ended up putting up some decent numbers, and then the injuries set in. But yeah, the grip, I'm sure I wasn't doing anything training grip wise by late 06, 07.
Okay. So a pretty good hiatus. And then
Yeah.
mentioning that you've been back real roughly, coming up on a year here. What was it that kind of sparked that return, or what was it like for you? What was that moment where you're like, oh, hey, like you almost rediscovered it, or it kind of just got
Yeah.
you back into it?
Rediscovered. It was weird. It was Labor Day. So maybe it's not September 1st. Monday's Labor Day. So call it
Mhm.
Labor Day. I came home. We were at this fair. Um, I was putting some laundry away, and we'd recently moved. So I'm like, oh, a bunch of grippers in this drawer of mine. And doesn't make sense. I just picked up my number one Captain's of Crush that I would only have randomly squeezed a handful of times in the last 15 years. Put it in there, and it made an audible click.
Mhm.
And I don't know why or how the stars were lined up. But when I did that, it was like bing. It's like, what the hell have I been? Why did I ever not do that?
Mhm.
And the rest of that day, I logged a couple hundred reps just going like this. Didn't have the calluses for it. I'm like, wow, I'm beat up from a number one. I suck. But the next day, I'm like ordering more grippers. But the goal is I'm only going to order one. And when I can crush this one really hard, I had since, I should point out, I had 2-inch dumbbells. I had sold those. I actually drove up to northern Minnesota, the Staver Foundry, where Iron Mind used to have theirs produced. And I drove up there and picked them up. I'd sold those off years ago, most of my grippers. And just started buying them again almost a year ago and getting back into it. And that has become whatever I think about grip now, or whatever I want to do for the grip community going forward, that started back that day.
Okay. Yeah. No, man, it's a cool story. And like I said, there's probably several people that have stepped away and come back that have that same kind of moment, or everybody has different stuff in the sport that kind of triggers them in a different way, or kind of wakes them up or gets them
That's
going. And
interesting. Yeah, waking up to it feels like the same thing because it was always there.
yeah,
All these fun
and
toys, just
but with grip, I mean, a lot of times the gateway drug is the grippers in the beginning that gets you to all the other stuff. We talk about that often on the show. And then, yeah, whether it's just, oh man, just picking that dumbbell up again, or just being around the weights again. It's just that it's almost like magnified when it happens because the time away. If you had just
exactly right.
had the grippers, 3 months later and saw them, you're not going to have that almost, it's not going to mean it's, I don't know, you know what I mean? You have to,
I know what you mean.
there's no substitute for that time. So yes, you maybe wish, oh man, why did I not stay with that? But it almost makes that return that much more special when you're like, hey man, I stepped away for probably a decade or so or a little more, and bam, here we are, and you're, hosting this Get a Grip competition up there, and um, very very cool concept with the events and lineup. We'll get into everybody that showed up and kind of the competition here in a second. I know it's like, oh, it's a recap and we're just rambling, but this information is important. And I really like it. The other thing I wanted you to talk about real quick before we get maybe further to the your competition
Uh-huh.
is we kind of made a joke about Minnesota almost, just like the grip scene that was there around that time, or what has been there throughout the years. And then basically, I mean, in my opinion, you brought this competition back. You're going to be trying to build upon what just happened, and moving forward, you're looking to kind of build that area up and maybe get back to where we, know that it used to be, or surpass that obviously and do bigger and better stuff with it. But bringing up the grippers, you mentioned, Iron Mind and, Warren Tetting and being right there in St. Paul. For Iron Mind being out in California, you mentioned that Randall Strawson was from Minnesota. So there's this funny thing about like everybody that's like majorly related to grippers is like from Minnesota. So are we going to call Minnesota the gripper capital of the world? And if people aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, do you want to just kind of break down
Sure.
Minnesota's ties to grippers or grip strength? It could kind of be a little bit of both, but
Man, until somebody starts closing hard grippers up here again, we better not call it that. I think it is interesting. Yeah, Randall Strawson, he's a Hopkins native. So a Minnesota guy who, yes, his company's out of California, came up. He didn't come up. Warren came up with grippers. I sat through all the stories in his workshop. I feel they partnered.
Mhm.
Having said that, and then you have, Matt Cannon, the standard grippers. Well, he's right here in Minnesota. Warren, St. Paul, Minnesota. And then you have Wade Gillingham, the GHP. Like when you talk about grippers, and there's other gripper lines out there, but these, I think, usually are considered some of the higher end, the most notable,
oh,
most
absolutely.
collectability. I mean,
Yeah.
and they just all came like from here. I don't know how that happens. Sometimes we take a couple steps back. There might be a reason. I don't know what it is. I think it's super cool. I was lucky to be around a lot of those guys. It's fun.
No, it's really cool. It's just, from, Iron Mind partnering, and I might have to do a completely separate episode with like Warren or like grippers or something, I might have to do something for the gripper people.
Well, what's interesting
for some of that.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh no, you're good, man.
I was just going to say, it was interesting because at one point, back when we were hardcore grip people and the grip contest up here, and they did an article about me and my brothers because there's three of us, and we're all pretty into it, more than pretty into it at that time. And I was going back and just like looking through some of those things. So Pioneer Press, local paper for the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, did like a big write-up. This one article that I just reread before this morning, to be up on my game, I read through. I'm like, wow, this reporter talked to Randy Strawson, talked to Warren Tetting. This article has pictures of Warren Tetting. I think I sent you a screenshot of it before.
Yeah, I'll have it. I'll add it to the interview. I'll bring it up on the screen.
Yeah, if there's a way to, but it's
segment. Yeah.
It's just interesting. They had Bill Pache on there. They had the owner of Staver Foundry in Virginia, Minnesota, where they were making the Iron Mine stuff. And it's really cool because this person got all that information in one unique article. It must have done well enough. Stars and Stripes, at least back then, was a military paper. Mm-hmm. So I've got a cousin kind of in the Iraq area, between that and another location. And he calls me one day. He's like, hey, what are my cousins doing in the Stars and Stripes? So Stars and Stripes military must have thought Minnesota and grip was interesting enough where they took it and they made it I don't know what they call it when you're in a newspaper.
Like the center story or the focus. I don't know. Yeah, the main
people who understand newspapers will know, but essentially it's in the middle of the paper.
Yeah.
And he's just
like the feature article. Yeah, like feature article.
I'm like,
probably.
This is really cool that grip made it all the way over there, and these badass military people are reading about stuff we do, just squeezing all these things. Article's pretty well written. It's like on the grip board at 3:43 in the morning, you can see a post by whatever the guy's handle is, and he and the other guy's handle, I forget what it is, like they're working on trying to develop what's the best way to make your pinky stronger. How niche, how cool. So
yeah, no, and that's like I said, I'll bring that article up, or at least not.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said anything now.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll have it pop up when we're talking about it right now. It's like when you just cover that, I'll bring it up, man. It'll be fine.
Okay.
And then if somebody's listening through Spotify or something else, then you'll have to jump on YouTube for a second if you want to check it out, or maybe I'll post it somewhere. Sure. With the episode, I'll add that in a story or something so people can see it, because it is cool, and it's like I said, it's just unique history, and if you're into this sport, you're probably liking hearing this kind of stuff, or you want to hear more of it, So that's how I am.
Yeah,
I could talk all day about some of this stuff.
It's a little bit back in the day, but when some of those mines were together, I mean, that's why we have like the mash monsters, like Bill Pache saw me on the grip board that I was selling stuff for Warren. He reached out. He's like, hey, I want a certification where we already said the threes are all over the map, which in some ways is kind of good because you can build a collection of different strengths. He's like, what if we kind of work together? He'd come up with what he wanted for it, but I could like bring that and say, hey, Warren, we're trying to get a gripper right about like this strength. What can we do to try to ensure that? And then we'd get a prototype or two and go to Bill. He'd squeeze it or do whatever he did on his end to see if he liked it. And then we'd tweak it. And then when people were closing that, we'd say, hey, let's worry about this next one. And that Mash Monster something different now. I get it, but that was just the idea, just like-minded people. Those Warren and this gentleman, I'm just the conduit. But yeah, interesting time to be a part of that and to see where everything is now.
Absolutely. So with deciding that, okay, so I guess from the time you're hearing this audible click, that kind of, wakes you back up and you want to get back into some grip stuff, you're buying some stuff. What gets you is it the fact that you wanted to compete that got you wanting to promote, or is it just that kind of the same thing like, hey, I used to, promote, run strongman events, do this, and this. I'll do that in this lane now. Or what got you to want to host this competition, Get a Grip?
I wanted to see someone walk the inch farmers.
You got to see two.
Yeah.
I let you down on that one.
You didn't. I did think there was a chance you could do it, but before you say anything,
yeah, no, you're good.
I think you were capable. What it looked like to me and my brothers, you were picking them up easy. It looked like maybe something flared up or tweaked in your back, and I couldn't. Having been in that position, you just let go and you say, "Whoa, something's not right."
Yeah, it was really more of a back thing, and then I didn't want to have my ego get involved for a second carry because unless I could have, and like I said, this is giving away some of the stuff, but unless I was going to carry them 12 feet to beat Jed or, to gain a point for strongman scoring.
Benefit of going last on the event.
Right. So I just knew that like, okay, I know I can walk them. I know I can pick them up, but right now, if for any reason I don't pick them up and I don't walk them farther than 11 feet on my second attempt, I can zero this event if this doesn't go well. And you had very good, cash payouts going on along with some other sponsors and stuff that chipped in. So yeah, very likely, had I let my ego get involved, like I got to walk these inches. It's like, okay, what if I carried them 10 feet? That might be cool. It might be something like, I'm still going to get the same points as if I just casually walk the 138s, the dumbbells under that. So it was kind of a bummer for me to not get that inch dumbbell carry with Eric and Jed when it happened, but there's more time. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. It's not the last time I'm going to touch bells, so
you do believe the grip was there though.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Yeah. And that's always been one of the things from the beginning of the sport is kind of having a lot of disc issues and some back stuff from previous things. Yeah, like if we could do if we did something like the grippers where you like did a right hand close and a left hand close and then combined them. If we did like a single hand walk with your right hand and a single hand walk with your left and added them, I probably would have been pretty good at that event. But yeah, it's that almost that real deep deficit where your back is almost hinged.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and I was moving too slow through that range of motion, and I just felt like my back, and I don't know if sitting in a car for 12 hours maybe impacted that too, because I drove about 11 or 12 hours the day before. Yep. So I don't know if that just had me kind of stiff and cooped up, and maybe I didn't really warm my back up enough for it. But yeah, it wasn't smart for me to try to force it, and I wasn't going to gain anything unless I could pass Jed. So I kind of just played conservative and moved into the next event. But it
was appreciated that you did drive that far.
Oh, well, man, it's for some of these things, it does suck that there's distance between a lot of us in the sport. But yeah, for certain things, if you need a certain item, an implement, a competition, certain things in life, at some point, you just got to put the time in the miles. And if you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can't. But nobody's going to show up to my backyard and be like, Zach, heard you're really good at lifting inch dumbbells, man. We got a film crew. We're going to sanction it. Like, you got to go where the things are happening, and sometimes it's inconvenient, but it's worth it. It's almost always worth it every time I've ever done anything. I've never went to a competition of any kind, grappling, fighting. I've played baseball across. I've never went anywhere looking back on it and been like, oh man, that was a bad choice. Even if the outcome wasn't what I really wanted. I've never just walked away feeling like I wasted my time or, it was all for nothing. So, so that's why I don't mind spending those long drives or putting in that time to get to these places or buy equipment, drive all over, getting certain
man.
plates and whatever. So, to just get into the competition without any other spoilers, real quick, do you want to kind of break down your event selection and kind of what you were thinking with those
Yes, I do.
events? Yeah, just
I
kind
would
of,
love to do that.
as you were forming this competition, the events you chose and kind of what that was about.
So you asked why putting it on. That was the real reason I wanted to see an inch. At the same time, ancillary. You get excited about something and you're in a niche community. It's not going to build itself. You owe it to the community. If you're in a position to provide, I have some of these implements. I care enough about it. I put on a 32 or so strongman contest back in the day. Some at the Minnesota State Fair. We got like 2 million people comes every year. They come every year to that across 12 days. I always relied on my family. So I knew I had the staff. All the scorekeeper would be fine. My buddy Ben, he owns all the Los, and he franchises some. So I knew I had the gym and I had the desire to do it. So if all those things lined up, you kind of have a duty to do it. So looking at the events, wanted grippers there. I thought it would be a way to touch. Crush is a part of grip. And I know not everybody's a big fan of it, but if you ask most people, what's the first thing you thought about? You'd say, well, I just remember when I was younger, my high school football coach, my dad, my grandma, man, they'd shake your hands. And you could feel it. How many people like, well, my dad could do this because his handshake was kind of like a gripper, isn't it? I guess the only way I wanted to kind of change it up is just measure both hands.
Yeah.
Didn't help me. But
it might have. I don't know. You don't know what other people. Somebody else might have been like, man, if it was right-handed, I don't know. I'd have to look at the score sheet completely. But maybe your left or right hand outdid somebody else, and had it been single hand, you might have been. I don't know. Or maybe it hurt you, and you would have been higher. If
fantasy grip. I love playing that. It hurt, but that's okay. A contest generally is to see who is the best at those events on that day, and that day we wanted to see who had two strong hands, not just a super awesome right or left hand. I wanted to use a set block for some kind of standardization. I had recently learned that, some of these could be logged, a database by GSI. I thought that was cool. I didn't know so much about that. It's easy to have that equipment. You got Matt Cannon in your backyard, and he's willing to bring grippers that are calibrated within 5-pound increments. You gonna say no to that? So grippers are going to be there. Where I failed, I likely should have had more 20 millimeter blocks there so the fellas could warm up differently. So I'd maybe make that adjustment. And only 4 events. I probably should have had 5 going forward. Maybe there'll be 5 at things, but that was the grippers. After that, we went the inch dumbbells. I just think I'd always thought that was cool. As good as I did, whether it was bending, whether it was grippers, man, I never got that. My best is if I wrapped my hand really tight and slammed it into the back of the bell and violently jerked at the right angle with the right humidity. One time I got both the globes off. I'd still like to do it one day.
Yeah.
So having said that, when you are bad at something within the thing you care about, how cool is it to have stallions show up who can just like crush these things? And I figured if you put it there and there was some prize money, some fellas would come out and do it. That worked out well. But I wanted to reward the guys that could do it, but I didn't want to penalize all the guys that couldn't and say you're just taking zeros. Yeah. We still got to see who's the better among the mortals. So, Zach, he makes some pretty cool dumbbells. I pronounce
Stanowitz. Yep.
Stanowitz.
Yep, Stanowitz.
I have mispronounced it then. He's got some sick bells. So we got those there. We had some 138, some 125, some 110s. And we even had some 2.5 handles. Any show, or at least the idea behind this show, and it was the same with Strongman, I didn't want people to feel like they couldn't participate. I wanted people to feel like, hey, if you just happened to be there at the right time and you had a buddy going or a friend or an uncle, I wanted to make sure you could log something. And if you have grippers that started, I think, at 30, and you have adjustables that we put at 85 for the day, that gives everybody a chance. And if you're somebody who does follow grip, we had a gentleman there. I don't think he'll care because I talked to him about it. Charlie was glad he did it. Charlie Wright had never done one before. He got to be at a contest with Jed. People think about grip. Oftentimes they think about him or Eric up in Canada. So how cool is that? It's pretty sweet. So those were the bells. I had never done a Saxon bar. I don't know if we want to talk about results now, but was that a hard Saxon bar? Maybe it wasn't a hard Saxon bar.
No, yeah, I would say, I mean, if
Unseasoned Saxon bar, maybe.
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It just comes down to the texture of it
Okay.
in that moment. Yeah, if you were to look at um recent lifts from, and I'm only talking about people that I'm aware of their numbers,
Sure.
that maybe I've covered, but yeah, me, Eric, and Jed, I guess by definition would have underperformed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Weight wise. I mean, we
It
lifted what
didn't
we
feel like
lifted.
underperformance to the rest of us sitting back
I
when
mean,
you guys start your warm ups and we've already bowed out. But sure.
but yeah, so no, it really just came down to the bar probably being newer, and
Uh,
it just hasn't built up that, like, layers of that seasoning or that chalk where you can kind of get a grip on. So it was a little bit slick. Um, but we all lifted on the same bar, so yeah, maybe the numbers go down, but we're still going to find out who's the strongest, and it'll just season
yeah.
up with time. So it's not make or break. Now, if somebody was like, I traveled all this way to hit a PR, they might be a little bit bummed out if they
Sure.
feel it. But yeah, I realized very early on in the warm-ups approaching 200 pounds, I just said, okay, this is not going to match my lift at nationals, but I'm competing against these guys. It does not matter. It's no longer me versus me. I'm just like, I just have to do more than Eric or Jed now. That,
No,
that
that makes
that's
sense.
where my brain went. Because I said, PR's not happening today, but they're not hitting a PR for them either. I just got to beat them. And it didn't happen, but
I love hearing strategies. I love
but
hearing
yeah,
internal
but
talk.
that's how I shifted my brain though. Because in warmups, I was like, God, like I did 280 at nationals, and then I'm sitting there like,
Oh, that's a number. You did 280?
at nationals, Jed did 285. He beat me by 5 pounds then, and I know Eric's lifted like 270 something. So we were all going to be very close on that event, and we still were. It's just our close wasn't 270s, 280s. It
Sure.
was 240s, 250s or something. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so no, the Saxon bar, I wouldn't say, it's just a seasoning thing and it being new. And I'm not going to complain about it. It's just, it happens. I mean, dude, yeah, there's just different climates, different stuff, different time. It'll be seasoned or it'll get used or it'll be chalked up. But yeah, in
Sure.
that moment, I think some people were, others that were not there were kind of like, hey, what happened on that bar? Why didn't you guys lift that much? And I'm like, "Dude, like, like we didn't all just magically get weak one day. like,
No, $60 entry fee. Come on. Come on up. Let's figure it out.
so,
Speaking of, I owe you $5. I think you sent me 65 to get in.
nah, yeah, that's just a tip in case PayPal tries to take something from you.
Gotcha.
They're trying to skim off the top, so I'm just gonna make sure you get the full deal.
Very
but
kind.
I don't know. Yeah, I sent a little extra, I think. Just I usually do that for people on a lot of stuff, just because like I said, I don't know if it's like, oh well, if you withdraw it, they're gonna take a percentage. I always do a little extra when I'm doing deals
But
or something.
essentially that they were picked to one be somewhat similar to some King Kongs. There's a little
Mhm.
bighorn in there. I thought if I had some events that were either cool, rare, or similar to something else people are training for, it didn't work, but I'd get a lot of participants.
Yeah.
There's always next year we'll change some things up, but that was the logic behind the events to try to test a little bit of everything.
No, man, I like it because, like I said, you have the grippers for crush. You have the well, and I should bring up too, with kind of mentioning the history of um, how do you say Joel's last name? I don't want to mess it up. Sorry, Joel Sword. Is that it?
Oh yeah, Joel Sword.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So him and Jeff Bissonette being probably, I mean, I'd say almost the first or two of the first people filmed on film carrying inch dumbbells. So the way I'm thinking about it too is with Warren being the gripper guy in that area, you're hosting grippers, but then I don't say you're paying tribute, but yeah, I mean, you're hosting grippers, and then a double inch farmers is almost kind of a tribute to that older era or that older scene where, I mean, that's kind of what it was like when you came into it. So I think there's almost like a tradition in that sense too.
Oh,
I
we'll
don't know.
start saying that for sure. We'll say that for sure.
Yeah, but I mean that's how I look at it now, knowing some of the more background information. So I think it's cool that those events lined up that way. Um, whether it's obviously, I mean, it's a definitive way to tell who has a good grip, who's overall strong. Testing both hands, obviously. So there's a lot of thick bar crush, but just the history of who's been in that area and people that did that stuff. I think it lines up very well. And then the 2 inch Saxon bar, a good pinch event, and then like you said, kind of lining something up for competitions that'll follow. Having the Little Bighorn, which is going to be featured in King Kong this year. So yeah, man, that's a nice plan and good events. So, like I said, from there, I don't remember everybody's lifts or everybody's things. I have a pretty good idea, but yeah, we can kind of go event by event, or just pick out certain highlights or something that maybe you feel stood out. And one thing before I forget, we mentioned, the hosting of the events and kind of putting together, something that would intrigue people. We mentioned cash prizes, but you put up $1,000 for first place, 750 for second place, and 500 for third. So that is, I mean, Eric Rusain even posted that's the biggest payout he's ever had in grip, and
Oh,
he
sweet.
has done. I don't want to know how many competitions, but a lot. I mean, the dude has traveled everywhere and competed all the time. So Eric is one of the most active competitors. He's also one of the most successful competitors the sport's ever seen. And I mean, that's his biggest payout. So I think that's a kind of another, I don't know, feather in your cap as far as the
Sure.
promotion side of it or getting somebody to come there. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up because it is a significant payout, really, that we have not seen in grip, or we have not seen anything like it. And, maybe, I don't know what guys got for like Mighty Mitts when Sorenex was doing that at the Arms or something. Maybe the payouts were, but in modern grip era for now, we'll say nobody's really done anything like that. And yeah, I just think it should be highlighted,
All right, appreciate that.
So yeah, that was just a cool thing to add. So like I said, it's all part of it, whether it's the sponsors, the history, the cash, like you mentioned, the stars aligning or something. It's kind of the full deal. There's so many different ways to make a good contest. Yeah, the money's one way, but without the I think how to put it, without covering the rules before each event, having the rundown, having good judges, knowing the people, having the scores kept, just all the professional side of it too.
Oh, sure.
You could have the biggest cash payout ever and then just like still run a shitty competition. So, but that's not the case with this one, right? So I bring up the money not as like, oh man, the money, but it's just one piece. It's one piece in that puzzle of, you putting together a really well-ran competition. So, just wanted to add that before I forgot, because like I said, it is a rare thing for people to get those kind of payouts. Okay, so talking about the event selection and kind of all the history and everything behind it and the reasoning, what were your thoughts as you were, as the grippers were picking up? People are warming up, they're getting ready to go, the closes are starting. What was kind of going on in your head there?
It was awesome. I love seeing how everybody warms up for things differently, whether it was strongman or grip. So I'm essentially chained to a squat rack trying to get, my core temperature up. I still had a hoodie on, I had a hat on. Then you see other people just setting the easiest gripper they could, maybe to build confidence. Does anybody really need to warm up? Sub trainer, and just like hammering, and just like they would close it like this. So you're seeing everybody warm up, but everybody was still pretty friendly and talkative. It wasn't like this hardcore. It's not that it wasn't competitive. It's just I think some of us knew that 3 people would be here, and then other people, based on training, maybe had an idea that they wouldn't be in those top 3. Mm-hmm. So the best way to put it, and the way we saw it sometimes in Strongman, is everybody was there to set like a PR. So when you're seeing it, everybody warming up, a couple people who hadn't maybe used set blocks. Some of you guys were giving advice. I know Eric was, which was appreciated. No, I think Jed even brought a set block. He had one that was looked like it was maybe longer, but that was cool because you didn't have to get quite in the business the same way.
And I actually brought one.
Oh, that was yours?
Well, no, that one wasn't. I brought another one that I just kind of left off to the side. Now that you mentioned people, I wish we had more for people warming up. I would have broke it out, but yeah, Jed had mentioned something about it, so I brought like an extra one that I had just in case you guys needed them. But then when I saw there was like already 2 on the table and everything was set up, I was like, oh, they don't need it, So I just tossed it in my bag. But
the thing I like the most about it, I like the side talk, which even though you guys had your tripods and cameras set up, you're never going to catch. Guys walking back to the table talking about it, it's like, man, my left hand put that down easier than it should. Am I going a 5 or a 10? And then saying, well, what happens if you jump to 10 and you miss? We can go back to 5. And then some people saying, this is way too hard. I don't know. I like the strategy and what everybody was saying. And it's fun when people are asking, like, what do you think I should do? I'm like, it's not my hand. I don't know how that feels.
It can be tough to give advice.
Feel like you had a lot left? Yeah. And make a jump and you can step back one because people got 3 attempts in each hand. So man, I thought the warm-up was good. I thought it went well. It is the hardest event to try to judge. We had our buddy Dave Osland hop in. Some people, this is not me, although I don't know that I was the most guilty of this, can apply maximum strength very slowly, smoothly, and hold. Other people Again, their method's just different. It still works. Shake louder. Looks like they're throwing dice in the alley, but they bring it up to you and show it. And knowing that you have to just see at any point, did any of this, did these kind of click just enough to consider it's not easy. I think he did a good job, but that's not an event that I would have wanted to contest. I thought I might have to for a second. Dave had surgery 10 days before that on his knee. He blew it out doing an old strongman rock course up north, but he, still showed up. So that was awesome. As far as results, you won the grippers, which
surprisingly
you say on almost every gripcast podcast that you don't fancy yourself a gripper guy, but that went okay.
Yeah, it did. And
two guys hit 160. You were one of them, I guess. So
yeah, me and Jed right-handed hit a 160. I know the hardcore gripper people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's not that good." I'm doing this, but like for somebody now, obviously Jed's trained grippers, but and has different things that he's working on. So I'm not gonna speak on Jed's behalf, but for me, yeah, for me not training grippers, I'll take a PR 160 close and tie in Jed in competition. I'll take that any day of the week. I'm not gonna complain.
Agreed. It is dangerous in any sport to be, in this one, quarterback grip guys saying, well, if I were there, I would have closed this one. Really?
Yeah. Or any bar.
Wider than the one you have at home. Maybe you wouldn't have responded so well after hauling all the equipment there or driving as far as you did. That's why we get together to see on that day. So, grippers were good. Maybe try to bring those back in some fashion. I'm not sure. Until there's another way to test crush and it's, what some people think of when they think of grip, I like to have it there. But yeah, I thought it went okay.
Yeah.
Matt
no,
Cannon,
I did. Yeah.
He was the only person who got the same strength in each hand, I think. And Charlie. So Matt Cannon goes 125 in each one. Cool shout out to him. He was the spacer between me and my brother. That would cost a half a point. That would, at the end of the show, mean I lost to my younger brother for the first time in history of anything. So thank you.
So even though maybe you weren't like eyeing the inch dumbbell farmer walk and you weren't trying to go battle head to head with Eric, there was still some bragging rights going on. Probably
there's always something. There has to be. Because if there isn't something, why are you there? You either trying to beat a PR. I guess if you just felt like getting out of the house that day and didn't care how you performed, that could be a reason. But no, I was there to try to do some things.
Yeah. No, and like we talked about at the beginning, it's just the competitive nature, and once you get into something that you care about and you're involved in it, even if like, hey, I have no shot at first place today, I'm still shooting PR, because I thought I had a shot at it, but even me, I was kind of like, man, that beating Jed or Eric on any format's going to be a tough day. I don't care how much you cater the events to yourself or somebody. If somebody were to do that, those guys are just well-rounded and strong. They've been at the top for so long for a reason. So
as they should be, they've put in the work and the time.
Yeah. So
any sport you see the people at the top, they probably paid their dues.
Yeah. And I was kind of thinking, man, I don't know that I can beat both, but I'd like to, maybe upset one of them. That's kind of how I was looking at it. Like I could at least just, get in the middle there and whatever. So and actually I don't get too far ahead there, but yeah, we ended up there with the strongman scoring format. We were actually, after grippers, I took first that event.
Yeah.
Jed took second, and Eric was actually in third. And then we mentioned the inch dumbbell walks where I kind of bombed on that one. Eric took first, Jed took second again, and then I was in third. So we were actually in a three-way tie halfway through the competition. So
which is cool.
That's made it a little bit more fun too. We were like, oh, okay, we got a competition going. Like,
is it not funny that one person's bombing? You took the 138s. Let me just look real quick here. So you elected to set them down at 32.
Oh yeah.
But isn't that your version of bombing? Like some of us hit that. We're like running around just high-fiving the random people in the fitness gym that day. Fitness gym, it's a hardcore bodybuilding dungeon. But yeah, man, that's just interesting how that works.
Well, I joked to Jed about it because I said, man, I kind of felt bad because some of the people in the crowd that maybe don't know me, because like we're meeting people for the first time. A lot of us we're seeing someone lift for the first time. They don't know they don't know that, like, oh, I've lifted way more than that before. They don't know. So they just see you picking these heavy bells up and they see you walking. So people started cheering like, let's go, come on. And I was like, I'm not even really trying right now. I'm just walking them, like I'm just doing this to get my points. So I told Jed, I said, man, I feel kind of goofy because like they're screaming at me like I'm like this, I screwed up on the the ones I should be doing. And I did make a joke to Jed though, and I said, "Man, I should have just carried those 138s all the way back to that posing room and just set them down."
I mean, you probably could have.
Yeah, but I also was, strategically once again, I was like, as long as I get my points, okay, I'm solidifying a third place finish here. This is what the points are. Conserve as much energy as I can for Saxon because I know all three of us are very close on that. So that was why, I just realized there wasn't anything to really gain, and it would probably, you could maybe hype people up if you just carried it a stupid long distance, but even then, I could carry it 100 feet. It's not going to be as cool as Eric carrying him 18 feet. It's just, in my head, it's just
not.
Yeah. So,
hopefully, in the future, we get a couple more bodies out there where you do have to care about that.
oh no, absolutely,
You didn't care, but the point been made. But I think the takeaway from that event is, some of you guys like Jed walked. He went 11 feet 1 inch with it. So you had two guys march him. Eric 18 feet,
yeah,
a quarter inch, and then for fun, even though he could have just conserved, he felt like doing it again, and then went 15 feet after.
Yeah, no, Eric did 2 sets of that.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
that is a method.
And he was
okay. He won. It worked okay for him.
Yeah, no, he did, and and being so close. I mean, you would almost question that choice more if they didn't get somewhat close to where if they're like, oh, he dropped him like 6 feet, you'd be like, man, you just wasted energy for nothing. But if to go 18 and then 15, pretty much not quite following yourself, but almost following yourself.
Almost following yourself. I mean, that's what it
tough.
looked like to me.
That's tough, man. So yeah, Eric's a beast, and he earned that event win for sure.
He earned the hell of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Saxon Bar was interesting. Again, we kind of already covered that. Overall, we tried to look at other results. It's interesting because part of me wanted to do a 3x4 Saxon, but our gym has a 3x3. I'm like, well, I'd rather buy some equipment that is totally different and keep it here. In the future, I can hold a 3x3, but I didn't want to buy. The one we have at the gym is a Rogue. It's 3x3, but I didn't like that even my average hands can reach the bottom. So
that just start making it real tough.
So we did end up going with the 2x5. It was new. Arm Assassin made it.
Yep.
Impressed.
And I was going to mention that's the other thing too. If it's a 3x4, 2x5, those are tracked for grip sport. So
there you have it.
That's the other benefit of selecting that actual like standardized width basically. Because the 3x3 wouldn't. I mean, you could host whatever events you want, but had you done a 3x3, it wouldn't have been logged basically in the database. So
everybody uses the same, but you'd rather have something that participates in the database. But I feel like, and I'm just looking at the results, but it seemed like, Jed did win it. 250, I guess, isn't what you guys usually do, but to all the crowd, they were still like, wow.
No, I mean, it's still a hell of a lift.
It's still a sizable gap because you're at 250, you got Zach at 230. No, you got
239, I think.
You got 239, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric was 244 and a half. So you guys, bunched up a little bit.
Well, and I tried to jump Eric at the end, so I skipped the 244 and went for 250 because there's no point in me tying Eric at that point based on the scoring. So, would I have locked out 244 and tied him? Maybe. I think I probably could have.
To what end?
But it wasn't going to do me any good, So that's the thing that the spreadsheet doesn't always tell the full tale, being there in person because
I gotta go.
Yeah, and that's why me and Eric were even talking about it. I said, hey, you want 244? I'm like, I'm going 250. Like tying you does nothing because you're going to beat me on Little Bighorn. I just knew, not saying a fluke couldn't happen, but yeah, Jed and Eric are a little bit better than me on Little Bighorn. So, and then that's been proven pretty consistently. So I knew that for me to stay in this, like, I got to hold my own on grippers, which I did more than hold my own. I won it. That completely surprised me. So I was like, man, we're on a good start. So I was kind of riding a high and then dropping the inches and kind of just like not walking them. I was like, okay, that high just got shot down real quick. And then, Saxon, I was like, man, if I don't beat one of these guys right now, I'm solidifying third place. Like there's no jumping after that.
It's interesting you mentioned that a fluke could happen because flukes can happen, but I feel like in strongman it's easier to see that. So you might have a 3-part medley. You're going to flip the star 5 times, you're going to drag a chain, then you're going to have to load 2 sandbags over this bar. There's so much more opportunity for a fluke to take place. I always called it's dumb, like the banana peel. You could go out there, take one slip one day, roll an ankle, you could go out there and just not have the fast start on the yoke. A lot could take place. So even if somebody was normally better than you, let's still get all ramped up. But in something like this, where we're trying to lift, just deadlift that bar right there, would have been a hell of a fluke.
No, yeah, it would have. And that's why, like I said, I had to go for the points. I had to go for that placing there and try to get something. Because I thought maybe if I passed Eric on that lift, maybe it would force a second and third place tie or something,
Sure.
if possible. And
Cool.
yeah, I pretty much knew after the inch dumbbells in the following two events, I knew that I wasn't going to be in the running for first, but I didn't think that I was totally out of it for, like I said, maybe kind of forcing a tie or
Well,
something for the second or third.
for listeners, the gang at home who wasn't there, to give an idea, yeah, you had 239 on that, but then like the next was me at 173. So
Okay, yeah.
there's a gap.
I wasn't sure of all the other lists, but yes, you took fourth in that, but that's, I mean, that's good points right there too. I mean,
Sure.
for like I said, the scoring system, yeah.
Going into Little Bighorn, you sounds like, based on what you just said a second ago, did you think that Eric was probably the guy to beat on Little Bighorn? Is he pretty solid on that, or no? That
I
could
probably
more
would have
Jed?
given Eric a slight edge over Jed, but depending on the day,
Mhm.
if somebody has a slight off day, I mean, they're close enough to where I could see either one winning, but I probably would have leaned slightly towards Eric on that one, and that's kind of what happened. But yeah, it was close, and that's why I also took a ridiculous jump on that too. I like used my fourth attempt and just went up and like tried 229 after like, I was like, I know I'm probably not gonna break ground with it, but I'm like, I have one attempt left, like. What do you want me to do?
You
Go
did
up
not
here
use
and
it?
yeah, like am I gonna just waste it and pull less than a PR for me, improve my standing by 0 and just be like, oh yeah, let me pull 211 or something for nothing. Like so I like they kept asking me if I was jumping in and I'm like, whenever they're done, I'm coming up and I'll give it one pull. Like what do I have to lose? So,
I don't know how you guys usually, recap if you usually go through everybody, but Eric,
well, it depends. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But yeah,
kind enough,
any
all
moments.
these
Yeah,
all
shout
these
out any
are on the
moments.
GI. The contest is logged on the GSI, so people can look at get a grip. It would be there. I'm just kind of highlighted, kind of
Yeah.
like at Matt and the grippers. Like I didn't know that was going to happen. That was good. Trying to think if there's any other surprises. I don't know that there really
Um,
were.
I'm trying to think if there was a. Maybe he wasn't competing, but there was one of the people I think that kind of sponsored or helped out.
Say
Uh,
it because we're thinking the same thing.
yeah, I'm trying to think. It's the clean
Clean
slate,
slate
right?
supplement guy.
So he had sponsored the competition for some stuff, and he was hanging out, and he has an arm wrestling background and some
Yes, he
stuff. I
does.
don't remember
I
his
would later find out, yes, when he's just like picking up everything after the show.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah. So aside from the people that were there lifting, I mean, there were some good lifts. There were some good competitive battles that we're not necessarily covering everything on the spreadsheet. We got into that history stuff earlier. We are covering. I feel bad because we are kind of just hitting the main podium or maybe a couple little extra highlights. But yeah, that guy wasn't even competing, but was there to kind of support the competition. And yeah, maybe that's somebody else you've recruited for the future that we'll have to worry about
Yeah,
because
man.
seemed like a strong guy.
Seems like a strong guy with no experience on any of those things.
Yeah, so a little bit of training, and yeah, who knows
Worked
what could
okay.
happen.
Worked
So,
okay for Eric going from arm wrestling to grip, so it can
for
be done.
sure. And then I guess if we don't get into mentioning that or anything else extra there after Little Bighorn, Jed and Eric ended up in a tie for first, which forced the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a deep dish Marcy plate.
The idea being that we
Um,
hadn't tested any kind of hub, and that's a version of grip that's pretty common. A lot of people have access to. Ian, a guy who competed, who has a crazy collection of all things grip. I talked to him. He's like, "Hey, I could bring something. I don't know where the ties will be throughout the contest, but if I bring like, I guess a Marcy hub's considered an easier plate to hub.
yeah.
And in hindsight, I would agree with that. So we were in a position where we had probably around a 24-inch box, just a plyo box, where we started out just the plate. You got to pick it up. That wasn't going to be a problem for those guys. Again, if some of us other people were stuck in that position, we're going to do that. But we were just going to micro load it up. And I think we had it at 45, and we put out, was it? Do you remember two and a halfs, a 5?
I don't remember if it was just going, by 2.5s or
Maybe it was
5 pound
2
jump or
5s.
back. Yeah, it might have started with something like that, but I forget what they ended up at. But I think it was around. maybe 70 pounds, not added, but
I thought it,
45.
yeah, I think it might have been 65
Okay.
was the winning pull. It was really cool to be there and watch these two guys who are both really good. One of
Yeah.
them bends down, does it, slightly different technique, puts it up there. Staff puts it back on the ground, or the competitor does. Next guy walks up, and I like that. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It meant something at that point. That was it.
No, for sure. And it kind of reminds me of like the tiebreaker they do where they kind of like, uh, you know, dropping the stone back and forth.
Yeah, that kicks
Hey, it's on
ass.
you. Like you got to put that stone back over here or else, and it just, yeah,
From a competitive standpoint and a
yeah,
pressure, and for the crowd being like, "Ooh, this guy just got it. Oh, this guy has to get it." Yeah, it was
yeah.
nice.
It adds up. It's much better like viewing. It's cool like seeing it. Whereas if it's just, well, he's going to chalk up for 4 minutes and then he's going to come back, you're kind of like, but when it's like immediate, okay, on the box, off. Okay, well, hey,
Yeah,
you're
sweet.
up. I like that back and forth format, and yeah, that I don't know. It's just something that it's just better than doing a max lift, over the course of maybe 30 minutes or however long it takes for people to run an event.
Well, we were.
I like that format
The
for.
thought was maybe just bringing like a hub attachment, but and maybe it's the strongman. I don't know what it is, but doing something more visual, just
Yeah.
a little different, which is why the grippers were a little different. The walking of the dumbbells, right? There's still things doing knock.
No, I
but
agree with everything, man. I liked it, and like I said, I think that tiebreaker was no exception. That it just makes it fun. I mean, it makes it fun. It makes it exciting, and um, yeah, like I said, it's fun to watch, man. And yeah, Eric came out on top.
yeah.
And it's funny though because I know Jed hates hub lifting, so
In
I
hindsight, I didn't know that, but yeah, it
oh
does seem like he's not a huge fan of it.
I was just cracking up because he's kind of ragged on hub lifting a lot in the past or other things, and I just know he's not a big fan. So when I knew that the tiebreaker was going to be hub, I was like, oh yeah, man, that's Jed's favorite, like he's real excited. But no, yeah, I mean him and Eric both did well, and yeah, man, they like I said they beat me head to head. I can't make any complaints. So, um,
That's fine. You might beat him head to head next time.
well, we should have had the Marcy Hub in the competition. No, I'm just
If the
kidding.
event,
But
that would have been sweet. Because
um,
are you decent at hubbing?
yeah, like I was messing around with them. I think I lifted like 80 after them,
Yeah, that's a
like
number.
before I left. And actually, Jeff, there's a competition called the Feet Meet Invitational.
Alex
Alex
put that
Gia
on.
Alex Gia is doing that
Oh,
in New
there.
York. That has a Marcy Hub lift in it. So
Cool.
me and Jed and everybody else that's signed up for that are going to get to actually redo that. So we'll see how that,
No,
in September, we'll
I'm
see how
pumped
that
about that.
pans
There
out.
were
So,
other things during the promotion of this. Something changed with one of the small businesses, took me out of the loop. We were maybe going to throw in a fifth event, a Hercules hold. We would have used revolving handles. The concern I had is
that'd be cool.
out like this is fine. And we did it all the time in Strongman. It is a good way to test grip. Strongman is still a lot about grip. I don't know if people would be down for that because, hey, now we're contesting because you do need some upper back and some shoulder to
Yeah,
be able to hold it. Again, the
for
revolving.
sure. But I mean, but you're going to need that at some point when your
You're going to
Saxon
need that
gets
at some
heavy
point
enough, or
anyway.
your axle deadlift, or
But
like a
more
napalm nightmare.
important,
Yeah.
not every contest is for everybody. So I know when I put this up, some people are like, or some people message me maybe like, would you change this bar? Would you change this? How about this? I'm like, I think we'll just probably
Yeah.
run it how it is.
Yeah.
But we'll do the show again next year. We're kind of scouting some venues. Maybe it'll be back. There was just fine venue, but I've got some other things I'm working on. In the past with Strongman, you always tried to have it where there's a big crowd outdoors, although that's tough because it did rain sometimes. That was real tough. But something visual with the crowd, because that takes the athlete who was going to perform at X. Now they're performing at X plus one, X plus two. Unless you're somebody who doesn't like that and you don't do well under pressure, then you perform at X minus one, minus two. But there's some pretty cool visual events. One piece of equipment does already exist. We can see if we can get our hands on that. But yeah, man, there's some ideas being kicked around.
No, I like it. Yeah. Don't throw any spoilers out for any of that. We'll
No,
Yeah,
I
have
will do
everybody
that.
wait until you get that going, or whenever you make an official announcement, or we
Sure.
could even make an announcement on the show later, down the road, whenever you feel like that's,
I'll say this. The sponsors that same day had said, hey, this was fun. we'd like to come again. There were some others that said they'd be interested that I didn't even ask the first place. So I know the money will be at least the same, and I feel good about giving away money. We did that in Strongman sometimes too. I won't be good enough to claim that. I hope to improve, but there are guys grinding on the regular for this, and if there's a way to give it back to them and make them earn it, and everybody's a good time during the process, that's a W. And there'll be a women's next year. I put that on the grip board. That's not a surprise. And it'll be a different date, so as not to go head to head with Brian Shaw's grip contest.
Okay. Yeah. No, but I was gonna say I don't know if that affected attendance at all.
There was one or two people who
A couple that
said,
maybe
"Hey,
were
I think
conflicted.
I might make that one," but then they found out. I don't blame them. They went the other route.
Yeah,
But
no,
they
that's
ended
okay.
up
But I
doing
mean,
it. Don't know, but they'd at least expressed interest.
yeah, and like I said, I mean, for me, I mean, it's my personal choice, but for between the two, I'm not upset that I was in Minnesota doing that,
Good.
while everybody else is doing it. Yeah, freedom of choice, do what you want, but yeah, I wouldn't change it. Going back.
Do you mind if I say one or two more things?
No, absolutely, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I appreciate the staff. Having the staff let us run a contest like that.
They did awesome.
2.5 hours. Alan came up from Black River Falls. He's having a King Kong this year, so a lot of us are going to go down and compete in that. The family for helping, but the pair on Eric to very early on say, "I am very interested. I am planning on attending this." I appreciated that. That didn't go unnoticed. Now, that doesn't mean that local guys that came, that didn't go unnoticed, anybody that came. And what ended up being after one athlete couldn't make it and the other guy decided not, other guy was going to sign up that morning, Buddy Mark, but he couldn't make it. In a 9-10 person field, it makes a big difference. And when you have someone who's really good in the sport, who's like, I have an interest in this. And the way you show someone you have an interest is you sign up and participate. That was cool. That was cool.
No, yeah, Eric is. I mean, in my opinion, like Eric's almost like the model grip athlete when it comes to being unbiased. When it comes to kind of, I mean, he's also promoter, ran how many arm wrestling competitions,
Sure,
done that. So I mean, it's that same thing. So I mean, I mean, I don't even really need to say it. I mean, but yeah, Eric understands what it is, on all sides of it, running a competition or, what it's like to be on both sides of that. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he took interest. And actually, had it not been for Eric kind of bringing it up, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have ended up there because
there you go.
he was very, not like he was like, he didn't like pressure me or nothing, but it was just brought up, hey, I'm going to be at that one. You thinking about going? And got to talking. And next thing I know, I'm like, hey, let me see who I can grab. And it kind of just started off. But yeah, I would credit Eric with probably the reason why I ended up there as well. So
Awesome.
But one other thing too, Jeff, the turnout of competitors was not necessarily like the biggest quantity ever. Like, it wasn't like some crazy thing. So yes, it was the staff ran it very efficiently. It was one of the smoother and quicker grip competitions that I've been to. And that's not even just because of the turnout or anything. But what I wanted to point out, you mentioned crowds. The support and the crowd viewing it was very good too. Because oftentimes for some of these, we'll say smaller shows, you know, there's usually more competitors than there are spectators. It's usually like, oh yeah, we're all doing this, and then we're kind of like cheering our own on. There was a great turnout
Oh,
for crowd there for
great.
the level of people that were actively competing versus how many were in chairs watching. The crowd was bigger than I anticipated for that. So that was an awesome thing too. And then you mentioned some of the staff helping out. I know you had I believe like some family helping out or friends and other people. You mentioned Dave judging, but yeah, no, they were awesome. And then for anybody that's not familiar with Alan Hynek, because I don't think he posts a ton online or like it's not like a huge social media presence, right? But Alan's been around Grip for a very long time, and Alan is going to be running King Kong this year, as Jeff just mentioned, but also for This Week in Grip. That was basically, Jed's podcast Jed would do where, basically before this was a thing that I'm doing now or whatever. I mean, Jed was one of the original people that was kind of doing coverage for certain events or having episodes about topics. And yeah, Alan was his original co-host for that. So for anybody not familiar, go back and check out some of the older episodes that Alan Hynek and Jed did of This Week in Grit. Because if you get some downtime or you've already caught up on current stuff, there's a lot of cool little interviews and stuff that those guys did. And that was part of the inspiration for kind of bringing a show like this forward was, hey, that was a show that was kind of, I got into the sport a little bit after they kind of stopped doing it. But, as I was getting introduced to all this stuff, I'm like, oh, hey, let me go back and I listened to like every episode they had. So yeah, just a heads up for anybody that's not aware of that. Yeah. So you brought up Alan's name. I just want to give him credit
he's
for
awesome.
helping the event. Yeah, he helped the event, but he also, was co-hosting with Jed and covering a lot of these competitions, before I even knew what the sport was. So, yeah, just something else to add there. But yeah, man, do you feel pretty good with most of that
Yeah.
covered? All right. Yeah. So,
There's
Jeff,
a
man,
little word vomit at the beginning, but
nah, dude, it's like I said, I could keep going and going and going, but yeah, at the end of the day, there's always going to be more episodes and more competitions. You don't have to make 12 events happen all at one day. Run 4 or 5 events. Okay, we'll get the next time. So,
sure.
But yeah, no, I really appreciate you putting on the competition, just assisting everything along the way, staff, sponsors, everything that you had there. Inviting everybody over to your place afterwards, providing food for everybody.
Yeah, that's catered by the sponsor Dominic's in Inver Grove Heights. They're awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, the whole experience from being on the road with Jed and traveling out that way to getting weighed in, being at the gym, just it is a cool venue, a lot of cool people, met some new people there, and like I said, I always enjoy doing these things. But yeah, this competition was pretty special, and yeah, I'm glad you're gonna do it again. And yeah, I'm just excited for when those events get released and kind of see where it's at because yeah, I see no reason why I shouldn't be there next year. And I hope the field just keeps getting bigger and
it'll be there'll be some stuff to talk about. I appreciate you having me on, man. Very cool. Keep it up.
Yep. Hey, thanks, man. And like I said, we'll get you on in the future for some other stuff. But for now, yeah, Get a Grip 2025. That's the final results and most of the action that we can cover here talking. And yeah, we'll see you guys next year when Jeff hosts the other one or the next one. Sorry, as I messed up. But yeah.
Hey, thanks, gang. Take care now.